Hello, church. So good to be with you today. Just a quick shout out to Jason Arnold, our youth pastor, who preached part of our Kingdom Now series yesterday morning and, of course, did an exceptional job. And so we're grateful for him and his ministry to the young people in our community. It's not well known, but he has 70, 80 kids show up every Sunday night to hear the gospel preached, and they worship. And so we're super grateful for his leadership and what he brings to Georgianna and to our community. All right, so we're two sections away from completing our study of Philippians, and we find ourselves in a section when Paul is talking about the generosity of the Philippian church. And so we're going to pick it up in chapter 4, beginning in verse 14. He says this, "Yet it was good of you to share in my troubles." Now, just pause a second. He lays the groundwork. He said, "It was good of you to share in my troubles." You know, part of what we base everything we do in Georgianna is we not only want to share the gospel, we want also to share life with people. And so this is a critical part. Verse 15, "Moreover, as you Philippians know, in the early days of your acquaintance with the gospel, when I set out from Macedonia, not one church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving, except you only. For even when I was in Thessaloniki, you sent me aid more than once when I was in need. Not that I desire your gifts. What I desire is that more be credited to your account. I have received full payment and have more than enough. I am amply supplied. Now that I have received from Epaphroditus the gifts you sent, they are a fragrant offering, an acceptable sacrifice, pleasing to God. And my God will meet all your needs according to his riches of his glory in Christ Jesus." Man, there's so much going on there. Essentially, what Paul is doing is thanking the church for their generosity when no one else was generous. He says there wasn't another church of all the churches he's planted. Nobody reached out. Nobody supported us. Nobody was behind us. Man, I know that feeling. So I think it's important for us to remember as he's thanking the Philippians why he's doing that. It's, you know, we go back to the previous passage where he talked about that he's learned to be content in all things. Now he's overjoyed in the generosity of a church, not only towards his ministry, but that they were a part of helping meet his needs. And I love that end section where it says that their gifts were a fragrant offering, an acceptable sacrifice, pleasing to God, and that God will meet our needs. And isn't that the problem we have? Is that we want God to meet all our wants, not exactly just our needs. And so I think we have to learn to separate those things. Let me just talk for a moment about generosity. I was on the phone today with a pastor friend of mine, Jay Therrell, incredible leader and pastor in the new denomination. And one of the things he says, Georgianna is the most generous church he's ever known. And honestly, in a great sense of humility, I know this also to be true. Our church is one of the most generous churches. Our church makes a difference in its community, both in resources, but in time and in giving ourselves away. And there are hundreds of ways, even now, as this is being put together and getting ready to come out to you. We have a team in West Coast of Florida serving and ministering to those who are in need. This church knows how to be generous. So let me tell you, if I were to die tomorrow and you ask me, how do you want to be remembered? First of all, I want to be remembered as someone who loved Jesus Christ. He was my Lord. I was all in. That's how I want to be remembered. Secondly, I'd want to be remembered as a guy that was a good husband, a good father, a good grandfather now. I want to be known as a guy that was a trustworthy friend, loyal to the end. And then lastly, I think I'd want to be known for my generosity. You see, for Dee Dee and I, generosity has been a big part of who we are and as a couple, as a family. In our 40 years of marriage, we are constantly looking out beyond ourselves in how we can give ourselves away, whether we had plenty or whether we were in want. Most of you have heard me tell the story. I grew up in West Texas in El Paso to a family that did not have a lot of resources. A great deal of anything that I enjoyed in my high school years came from anonymous benefactors that looked out for me, who believed in me, who invested in me, whether that was a baseball camp or a football camp or going to some event. Somehow somebody found a way for me to be able to go, and to this day I don't know who they are. Years later, I was cleaning out a jewelry box and I found my high school graduation ring and I was showing it to my kids. I said, "Here's a great story." I said, "My mom and dad couldn't afford to buy me a ring, But I had a neighbor that heard that I wasn't going to have one, and he stepped up and bought me my high school graduation ring. It's just an act of generosity. You see, when you've been the receptor of such generous gifts, it should cause our hearts to swell with generosity. So I think part of what Paul is trying to tell us today, listen, you and I have been receptors of the most incredible gift of all time. It's the gift of Jesus Christ. How could our hearts not swell with generosity? This coming Sunday is Compassion Sunday in Georgianna. It's the one Sunday that we set aside every year to make a one-time sacrificial gift to bless orphans in this world. And so we just invite everybody in the church to bring up a one-time gift that's sacrificial. The church doesn't keep any of it. All of it is given away so that we can bless those who've been abandoned, who've been forgotten, and part of the world that has been known as the lesser thans. I hope you'll be a part of that offering and that gift, because it's a reflection of the generosity that we have that overflows from all we have received. So church, I hope this was a blessing to you today. I know it was a couple of minutes beyond 5, but I hope it helps you start your week. And I hope it helps you begin to pray for the offering that our church will take this coming Sunday so that we can bless children who've been discarded. I love you so much, and I look forward to finishing Philippians with you next week. And then the week after that, we're going to start the book of James. Have a great week, church.